Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to today's DevOps.com webinar, brought to you by TechStrong. My name is Cody J. Brown, and I will be moderating today's session. We have an exciting presentation ahead of us, but before we begin, I have just a few housekeeping notes. Today's event is being recorded, so if you miss any or all of the discussion, it will be made available to rewatch. You'll receive an email after the webinar concludes with a link to access the on-demand. We also want to hear from you, so please feel free to send in your questions at any time throughout the program by using the Q&A tab. We'll try to address as many questions as you can send in, so please be sure to get those questions sent in early. We also encourage discussion by using the chat tab. Let us know your thoughts, comments, suggestions, or just say a quick hello. And finally, at the end of today's webinar, we have a drawing for 4 $25 Amazon gift cards. Stick around to see if you are one of our 4 lucky winners today. Let's go ahead and kick off our webinar. The topic is Clicks, Not Scripts. Accelerate enterprise software releases with AI-driven test automation. And I'm joined today by Hamza Ahmad, Solutions Architect with Keysight Technologies Incorporated. Mr. Ahmad, thank you so much for being here with us today, and the floor is yours.
Welcome, guys. We will give it a few moments for people to join. Feel free to get yourself a glass of water, tea, coffee, or a beverage of choice. Right, we'll just give it a few moments to allow anyone running late to join. Right, guys, we have a lot to cover today, and it's some really impressive stuff. Now, before we get into how Eggplant has provided a very innovative turning key solution for any Salesforce instance, I thought we'd give you a sneak peek what we're covering today.
In a world where customers are at the center of everything, Salesforce is business critical. But keeping up with the latest releases can be challenging, and testing every feature just isn't feasible with manual scripting. More than ever, we need to see what the user would experience even before production. Introducing Keysight's Eggplant Salesforce solution, powered by AI-driven test automation. Test any Salesforce environment across any platform, on any device, with a no-code, low-code approach. Accelerate new Salesforce releases with auto-generated models. Speed up new feature releases and customizations, and keep your world customer-centric, one test at a time.
Hello and welcome. Very exciting stuff. My name is Hamza Ahmed. I'm a solutions architect at Keysight's Eggplant. And what we've seen just now is a sneak peek of what we will be covering today. And it is truly impressive. Now to start, who are we? For anyone that doesn't know, we are Keysight's Eggplant. Keysight's Eggplant is the standard in customer experience testing and monitoring for enterprise applications. Our customer base boasts many household names, as we're seeing on the screen here, each one a leader in delivering software that secures commercial success and boosts productivity. The prime goal for Eggplant is to allow for faster software release times with more test coverage and zero bugs. Testing should no longer be seen as a cumbersome process. Eggplant makes sure you're satisfied with quality releases without any compromises of large amounts of effort. So really well sought of in the market space here. So why Eggplant? Well, firstly, a change is needed, right? So testing software has been around as long as software itself, And if you're watching this, I hope that you understand the importance of testing and why it's vital that we no longer use testing as just a last step in a life cycle, but rather give it some valid importance within your developments. With that being said, the current state of testing is not too great. Traditional approaches are good, but not great. We have the manual testing. To start off with, manual testing is intelligent, but only as intelligent as a human can be. It requires a human to identify what would look strange and zero into that and try to identify the problem. But it's only as intelligent as a human, and it's prone to human error. It's not scalable. It can be slow. It's expensive, and it requires experience. Leading on from that, we have the traditional automated regression testing. Now, this is faster to execute, but it always runs the same tests. It requires all the tests to be manually built, and it's not intelligent. These tests are also against components rather than the full end-to-end journey or the end-to-end user experience. These tests don't normally go against different platforms or devices, and they're built typically for a set of technologies which are quite limited to or more focused on the waterfall methodology. And these tools, instead of being re-architected, they have features added on or bolted on, if you like, to stay relevant, and they're losing their footing in that space. Now, one point I do want to mention is that artificial intelligence is thrown around quite often with automated testing, but it's quite commonly just used as a buzzword. In many cases, it's simply using AI to just pick from a selection of test cases. So essentially, you have an AI selector. The underlying algorithms are not taking factors into account, such as real-world performance, code changes, and it's really, really narrow in scope. The answer to all of these problems is continuous and intelligent automation that incorporates a holistic approach to testing. All the elements that matter and all the platforms and devices that matter. This brings together the intelligence of a manual tester or a human being, but also uses the automation and the added benefit of machine learning to make sure your testing framework is efficient and effortless. So the user experience is paramount here, guys, and this really is a business problem in itself. We've seen organizations shift. The user experience is so critical to any organization, whether that be an internal user or an external user across any platform. The user experience expands not only to cover the appearance, the pretty colors or anything like that, but also how a system will function, how a system will perform. And this importance is further emphasized when you factor in multiple different applications that are incorporated into a business that a business is reliant upon. If any of these applications or business critical applications fail within the process, if they have any vulnerabilities within the process, this could have massive repercussions for the whole business. It could ruin the whole workflow. And if we just get into one of the workflows here, this is a prime example. Enterprise organizations have hundreds of systems with thousands of workflows. Each of these systems and patterns of working will differ from company to company, even departments. A user journey can take multiple paths through the system, going from applications such as SAP to ServiceNow, to Oracle, to Salesforce. And these existing tools within the market space are not really focusing on that full end-to-end journey. You're not validating that your user, your internal key stakeholder, is able to achieve what they want to. This is vital to testing. And a user journey can take many paths, and these are not really being addressed for, and we need to take these into account. So if I give you an example of one use case or workflow, and we can see on the screen we've got SMS, IVR, portal, web app, IoT, and so forth. And this is just a real example at a basic level. We're seeing a customer request an order from the partner portal, and then it contacts Salesforce, and then we go to some .NET, and then some SAP, and then go back to another. So inventory logging, and then SAP again, and then another system. Then within this use case, very simple use case, guys, we have 7 or 8 systems that have been tapped into. Are you testing against these 7 or 8 systems? If there was a vulnerability, a failure on any of these systems, would the workflow work? No. And that's why it's so important to test the full end journey, end to end. That's why it's important to have a holistic approach. And that's why Eggplant delivers in this holistic approach, testing against any software, any device, any platform. So how does Eggplant do this? Very simply, we have a digital twin, and this digital twin represents all possible user journeys through a system, and we can see an example of this on the left-hand side. Thousands or millions, of possible combinations can easily be encoded within this simple model, and this simple model has 2 simple concepts. Very easily. The first, actions, the gray boxes here. Anything a user would be able to interact with, click on, look at, go through. Second concept, states, the purple boxes. That collects actions into a specific context. These actions are visible on the login screen on what page is this accessible with. And the user journey, we can see an example of this on the right-hand side in the green lines. This allows us to see at a high level the bi-directional behavior that's organic to your application or system. By mapping the workflows, we're testing against real capabilities, what only a real user would be able to do navigating through your application or system. The digital twin can also be generated from a range of sources, such as a Gherkin feature, process models. We even have easy to use tooling, which helps you to semi-automatically create them, or manually. Get granular, choose how you want to create this. We even allow you to add in your regression packs. So you're not losing any of your Selenium tests. You're not losing any of your current environment of tests. You can ensure that you have the test cases that are safely identified as important. Now, getting onto AI, we are leaders within this space for a reason. The AI automatically generates test cases for you using an assembly of different algorithms that work together to determine the next best course of action. The first of these algorithms, the AI bug hunting algorithm. This will look for patterns that are associated with defects found historically and guide testing into those areas with similar attributes. If an error is flagging up within an area of your application or system, we will look to see if that's a correlating error to another characteristic that matches. Is it a wider threat? Is it only consolidated to that one vulnerability we have found? We're proactive with our AI, doing this for you. Second of our algorithms, the coverage algorithm. This algorithm works to utilize every possible unique path and dataset combination, starting with simple coverage analysis and increasingly becoming more involved and more detailed, spreading outwards. The third algorithm, extremely important, extremely valuable, real user journeys. This is where we take our RCI technology. We automatically map real user journeys from production systems, from live systems. And these live systems journeys can be ranging from common journeys, those with errors, or those that are tagged as having a business goal. I just want to step back, talk about that once more, in case it went over your head. We are taking real user journeys and feeding them back in, so you're constantly testing against what's actually happening by your users, not your testers, in your instance of Eggplant. Our fourth algorithm, the changes and defects. Every action has an associated timestamp. The actions that refer to more recently updated parts of the system will have their timestamps updated, so they'll be focused. If you update an application part, we will test that application part to make sure that's up to par. Finally, much more like the way that we have real user journeys, and we use the real user journeys to influence our auto test of creation, we also use defined regression packs to influence testing in other areas of the application if desired. This is really high level, guys. I really do encourage you to get in contact so we can go really granular, so we can get more information and give you all the details. But as we've seen, Eggplant uses the digital twin to simply identify the possible tests, the bidirectional behavior, and the automation tasks. The automation is carried out by The automation is carried out by our universal fusion engine that can interact and understand and control any system. The output of both systems is provided in an easy to consume report. And everything we provide is easily accessible through APIs to allow efficient integration into your CI/CD pipeline with tools such as Jira, Jenkins, or any of your pre-existing tools that you currently have within your CI/CD pipeline. Is your DevOps anything? No issues of compatibility there. Eggplant is literally providing one platform to test them all. Cross-application, cross-device, cross-infrastructure age. This demonstrates the flexibility and power of our Fusion engine. It allows us to test mobile, desktop, web, IoT, operating systems, web technology, Citrix, SAP, robotic arms, in-car entertainment systems, you name it, we test it. Eggplant Fusion Engine combines the usage of optical character recognition and image recognition, and the added addition of object-oriented tests and API tests. This gives us a holistic approach, an innovative way to test the full end-to-end capacity of any application, any system, multiple systems. Traditionally, testing frameworks have been established against object-based testing. This is no longer sufficient. This approach has drawbacks. We don't want to be testing intrusively. One of the many drawbacks is the requirement to have the direct access. Given with the complexities of other rulings such as GDPR and all these other sensitive systems cannot necessarily be interacted with. In addition to that, once connected, these object-based testing is not necessarily guaranteed to understand the custom objects that are quite commonly used in application development for enterprise. So it's not really testing against what you currently have. That's why you need a holistic approach such as Eggplant. This is really groundbreaking, guys. Now, Eggplant is extremely innovative in our approach. We use OCR, we use image recognition, APIs, objects, holistic approach. We test from the user experience, not only testing the performance, not only testing the functionality, not only testing the appearance, testing the full end-to-end journey. Now, we've really outdone ourselves here, and we've gone one step further with our innovation. And we've provided a turnkey solution for your most favorite CRM tool, Salesforce. So for anyone that doesn't know, Salesforce launched in 2000, and it was little more than a contact database to store details, track sales, and send an email or two. Fast forward 2021, a lot has changed, and Salesforce is much more than a simple CRM tool. With 20% of the global CRM market, Salesforce dominance doesn't look like it's letting up anytime soon. Thousands of organizations, if not more, are using packaged applications to basically run their businesses. These underpin their businesses. Salesforce is one of the most widely used packaged applications and one of the most difficult to test against. It requires acceptance testing. If your business is reliant upon this software and it's not being tested, what happens when it does not run as expected? Now, the challenge is no one size fits all. Instead of having to write and maintain different tests for your different iterations of Salesforce, whether it be one department or another, it would be great if we had one library of tests that would just work straight out the box, turnkey solution. And that is what Eggplant has provided. Now, before I get into that, want to discuss some of the challenges that are quite common with testing Salesforce. Now, with every release brings improved UI for greater functionality. This is brilliant for the users. This is not very great for the testers or the Salesforce admins. As with a lot of releases, even the most minor UI changes have the potential to break your tests, perpetrating a never-ending cycle of testing, maintenance, and just recreation of these tests. And this is multiplied when it comes to automation tools that instrument into the code base. And the main complication here is because of Salesforce's use of shadow DOM. Excuse me. This wraps up and protects the internal DOM, which is basically the structure of a web page. And by protecting the internal DOM or shadow tree, its components are preventing it from being manipulated by languages such as HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, the trouble comes when object and DOM tools struggle, because when they use these scripts to test against Salesforce, they're normally written in JavaScript, something that we've just said Salesforce protects against. They also relied upon a deep understanding of the object's IDs and attributes. And this is not the case. These current automation tools do not understand your object IDs. They do not understand your attributes. And when it looks for those object attributes or IDs and they've been changed because of a UI, it deems the test a failure, false, unusable tests. So let's get into sort of the block architecture and what this looks like in traditional automation approaches, and then we'll get into how Eggplant does things. So on the left-hand side, we have the basic Salesforce configuration, the standard assets everyone gets into their instances, accounts, opportunities. Then you have the Salesforce customization. This is what's specific to your organization. This could be your page objects, your customized fields, anything of the sort. Then you have the ability to choose between the platform. Do you want to run it in Classic or do you want to run it in Lightning? Now that's typically how Salesforce looks in any organization. That's their Salesforce. Now let's discuss the testing for these Salesforces. We have the automation platform. Great. Pre-built assets for Salesforce baseline. Pretty vanilla. Okay, great. But here comes the work. Manual customization phase. This is when you have to customize against your own iteration of Salesforce. Then more manual customization for either Classic or Lightning, not both. So although they provide the pre-built assets to the baseline vanilla version of Salesforce, there's huge amounts of manual customization needed to be carried out. And when a new version of Salesforce, either by the business or Salesforce itself, it requires more manual customization again to be repeated to keep up. And that's not sufficient in my opinion. Now, what we have with Eggplant is truly revolutionary. I'll just take a sip of my water. Now, we provide the automation platform. And then after that, we provide every aspect that you would like us. We automate the full process here, giving you a single pass automation for rapid generation of customization assets for both Classic and Lightning. You don't have to choose between the two. This will take minutes, not days, not weeks, not hours of your QA team, minutes, clicks of a few buttons. There's no translation errors or gaps in terms of what we understand. The whole source environment is generated and accounted for. There's a guaranteed equivalence of customized schema and validation, meaning we understand the validation rules in your environment and we test against that. And finally, a uniformed approach to testing both Classic or Lightning. Your users do not have to choose between the two. So let's discuss how this works in terms of Eggplant. So on the left-hand side, we have the Salesforce platform, pretty standard. Now we have 5 steps to testing the Salesforce solution. Our first step is to connect to the business Salesforce instance, and we do this via the Salesforce API. Our second step is the Eggplant Salesforce solution identifies the modules used by your customer. What do you have standard? What do you have customized? And we will generate the model and the assets needed to test these. All of the models and snippets are generated automatically here. There's nothing by you guys. Third step, the QA team or Salesforce admin define the test conditions and tests you need us to run, tests you want us to run. This is literally selecting from a drop down, and you'll see that in a few moments. Fourth step, tests are executed by using our Fusion engine, ensuring the real user journey is validated against Lightning or Classic. And finally, very important, the results, logs, and analysis are fed back into our DII platform. So they're easily digestible by you guys, easily found under one roof. Now, guys, this is really impressive. So I think it's time we go into the Salesforce solution. And I show you a very quick high-level overview demo of what this looks like. Let's see in action. Okay. So what you're seeing on the bottom right-hand side, guys, is all you have to do is point your Salesforce. Point your Salesforce solution into towards your instance. Excuse me. And once we have the Salesforce solution pointed, we can open a model, right? And once we have the model, it will be automatically generated, right? So we're opening the model there. Sorry for that short delay. And then once we create that model, we have that unique model representing the application itself, meaning we can go and automate any test a user would do. Now, to record a test case is very, very simple. You click Test Case Builder and you add a new test case, put the appropriate name, and then we can start to click on assets or actions that we want to test against. So we can click against accounts and then cases, let's say. Excuse me. I do apologize, excuse me. And then what we will do then is we'll select from the drop down some of the submodels that we want to test against, select the test case, and we just click play. Now, I just want to pause here because in the space of 30 seconds, I've pointed Eggplant to the Salesforce instance. I've automatically generated the models and snippets, and now I have a test running live against my Salesforce instance. And in a few moments, we'll actually see this go into accounts as instructed and enter some details. And it's entering those details there as instructed. It'll go through the process, and what we will see is the Fusion engine allows to test against any system. So with a tool like Salesforce, with a huge ecosystem and many permutations, Eggplant is uniquely placed to solve the challenge of Salesforce that we've identified previously. Now, what we also see is these green and purple boxes appearing, verifying the UI and the entries have been entered correctly. And guys, just to reiterate, this is the tip of the iceberg. Eggplant can test against any system, and we have really, really, really innovative technology to test against any one of your platforms there. So what we've just seen in a few minutes is a really high-level overview of the solution, right? And I do mean this as a high-level overview. We haven't shown you the full depths of capabilities of the Eggplant Salesforce solution, but it's a no-brainer to recognize straight away the benefits here. This is saving you massive amounts of time and manual effort. This will accelerate test cycles and releases and reduce the chances of any blockers. This is less work. And I genuinely mean that this is less work. There's no need to recreate your tests for Classic or Lightning or the latest iteration, or even have to create the model. We have you covered. This is truly groundbreaking, like I said, and I really, really do encourage you to reach out so I can show you more in a full-scale demonstration. And with Eggplant, we test against everything, right? Not just APIs and database. We test the full user journey, the true full user experience. And that feeds into your DevOps, your CI/CD ethos, feeding it back into the additional tools there, and how you'd want it, making it a scalable platform, and also making it usable, right? We don't want to cause complexity. We don't want to cause confusion. We don't want none of that. It's very simple and easy to use tool. And I really do advocate for you guys to reach out or try the Salesforce instance trial that we have. We'll release those details at the end of this webinar. But I think now I've shown you the benefits of Eggplant. I've shown you the innovative approach that we have towards Salesforce. It's now time for me to answer your questions. So we'll take it to some Q&A, and at the end, as I mentioned, we'll have some time to cover off the next actions. But questions, please. Please. Excuse me.
Hi, Hamza. Thanks for getting on with us.
Hi, just bear with me 1 second.
Sure.
Hi, sorry, I just had a bit of a coughing fit there. Hi guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm ready to answer your questions. I can see one here. Cody, do you want to read them out to me?
Absolutely. So the first one says, with companies moving more into COTS or COTS, how will Eggplant be able to support testing across multiple black box intertwined environments?
Okay, so I'm presuming what they mean by COTS here is commercial off-the-shelf tools. Now, with Eggplant, we have a very innovative and unique way of approaching things. We have a digital twin and we have abstraction with accelerators to speed things up. The Salesforce solution today is only one in a line of tools that we will be supporting further to have a turning key solution straight out the box, making it easier for enterprise applications to be tested in any organization.
Wonderful. I just want to also remind the audience to keep your questions coming in. Our next question is, where do you envision the Eggplant going after being acquired by Keysight?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question, and we get that quite often. So I think things are going to really go really far, and innovative and great things are yet to come with the acquisition of Eggplant by Keysight. Keysight in their own right are a massive powerhouse within the testing space for hardware and radio frequencies. We now have them owning and acquiring Eggplant, a massive powerhouse in the software space, in the automation space, and the AI and machine learning space. And the Salesforce, again, is the solution that we've given an example of today is just an example of the first step that we've taken to really make innovative approaches to serve all, essentially. So really big things coming from the acquisition of Keysight, and I think it will just further exemplify our status as the leaders within the test automation space.
Outstanding. Our next question reads, does the tool allow us to export the scripts to Selenium or JavaScripts in case the company doesn't want to be tied up with a specific tool?
So I think it's a really good question. The individual who's obviously asked this question, it's really important that they understand the way the Eggplant works. So with Eggplant, we have that digital twin, which allows you to see the bidirectional behavior organically. Now, what you can do is you can import the Selenium scripts into the Eggplant to be run. However, Eggplant actually runs off those actions that I mentioned earlier. Now, these actions can be linked to a specific script. So you wouldn't export the Eggplant into another tool or another area, because Eggplant uses a proprietary way of doing things with our innovative approach, which means that we can import existing tests to test from a holistic approach, but you wouldn't use Eggplant in an additional tool other than integration within your CI/CD pipeline. So just to make it very clear, Eggplant will integrate with Jira, Jenkins, Azure DevOps, and your other CI/CD pipeline tools. I understand there is some concern about being locked up with a vendor. With any vendor working as a market leader, it's very unlikely that the tool would be exportable to another set of tools. With our solution, it's the same practice. We have a custom way of doing things, and because of our custom way of doing things, we're able to achieve so much more. But that would mean that it wouldn't be usable in another given tool, for example.
Wonderful. Well, those are the only questions we've received for now. If you want to stick around for another minute or two to see if any more come in, we can do that.
Yeah, not a problem. I think someone mentioned, will it slow down the network? I think Stan. So in regards to that, Stan, it would be communicating over the Salesforce API, and this is extremely fast, right? As we've just seen in that webinar, there would be no sort of causes of concerns with the network in any way there. Your system under test will connect from your Eggplant Studio to your system under test. Again, there's no concerns for any network speed or anything like that. This is not a heavy load application. This works seamlessly to test in real time. So we need to make sure that it's a tool that works in the right fashion when it comes to performance. And we've nailed that, in my opinion.
Well, thank you so much, Hamza. Any questions that we will get over the next few minutes or over the next 30 minutes, we can send over to you after the fact.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and run through our Amazon gift card winners, and then I'll recheck the questions one more time before we officially close out.
Fantastic.
So just a quick reminder, today's session was recorded. Following the webinar, you'll receive an email with a link to access the recording on demand. You can also find the recording living on the DevOps website. So just visit devops.com/webinars and look in the on-demand section. You'll find it waiting for you. Our 4 Amazon gift card winners today are Richard J, Adam C, Jonas J, and Gianpaolo M. So congratulations to the 4 of you. Keep an eye on your inbox to claim your $25 Amazon gift card. And if you don't find an email in your inbox, keep an eye on your spam folder. So it looks like we did receive one more question. It asks, can you support data-driven testing or testing at the data layer, or ID the use case end to end?
Fantastic. So I think the gentleman is asking here, can we support data-driven tests or testing at the data layer? Yes, we can. I think the second part of that question is, or is the use case end-to-end? Please correct me if I'm wrong, Ben. But in regards to the first part, yes, we can support data-driven tests. We can use variables that feed directly from CSVs, objects, APIs, databases, and we can also support the data layer if needed, using the object-based area of our testing capabilities.
Great. Well, that closes us out for the day. Hamza, I appreciate you taking the time to put together this demo and to be on live with us to answer these questions. Do you have any closing remarks before we officially close out?
Yeah, so I think what we've seen today is a really high-level overview, and I do mean to say it's a very high-level overview, guys. I know you guys are asking some technical questions, and I'm more than happy to answer those. So I will be releasing my email address, which is Hamza, HUMZA, .ahmed, AHMAD, @keysight.com. Feel free to ping me a question any point in time. If you need a demonstration, if you want a more of a bespoke conversation, we can have that, even an informal chat. I'm more than happy to have that with yourselves. Now, we did have a live from lab event, which we actually had the living legend Steve was, the Apple co-founder, guest speaker, and that link can be seen on the screen here, live.keysight.com. You'll see the latest updates from Keysight, as well as some conversation around the Salesforce solution we've seen today and the technicalities behind it. And also on the screen, you can see some steps to get yourself a custom assessment against the Salesforce solution. So if your organization is using Salesforce in any way, I really do advocate for you to head over to www.eggplantsoftware.com/Salesforce solution and enter your details there and get a custom assessment. Now, in regards to any other applications you have, as I mentioned today, Eggplant can test against any software. So if you have a business need to test, please do reach out to us. If you have a technical challenge, we like to address the biggest technical challenges. We don't go for the low-hanging fruits. If there's complexity in your use case, whether it be 10 systems or multiple platforms, we want to hear these. We want to be showing you how we can solve your problems. So please do reach out to us, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmad. I would also like to thank you, our audience, for being with us for the entirety of today's presentation. This is Cody J. Brown signing off. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks all.